All right, welcome back to Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt. I know on Monday it was just Geoff, but Matt being resilient and persistent and trudging through and battling a cold is back with us for the Eagles preview playoff episode. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk Eagles Packers and might just touch on some of the other playoff games and give you our thoughts on those as well. So welcome for tuning into another episode. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that other fun stuff. And we're going to dig right into it, Matt. So, again, I know you're battling through the cold, but I appreciate you being on. And we're going to talk Eagles Packers.
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for going solo last week. I hate being close to 50 years old and having to go through colds that probably would have been over in 2 or 3 days. I'm not used to this week-long assault on my senses. So I'll be going to bed right after we cut this episode tonight. But Eagles Packers. So it's one of those games where I think all of the pregame talk is in favor of the Eagles, minus the when's Jalen Hurts coming back? Is he going to practice? Is he stuck in protocol? Are you lying to us? I'm like, no, he practiced today. Hurts is going to play. I don't think he's actually going to have much rust from taking these weeks off. If anything, I think he's going to have a fire lit under his butt because he's seen the other two guys can win with this team. And if he's watching and knows anything about football, he sees Tanner McKee throwing these friggin' pinpoint precision passes and feeling the rush and getting rid of the ball and all these things that's like, hey, take some of Tanner's game and add it to yours, Jalen. You're still our number one guy. But, boy, we want to see you at your best because we know that's a victory. So the Packers, they've got a ton of they're more beaten up than we are right now. Goddard, by the way, had a great game against the Giants. He looks like he didn't miss anything. He's 100% healthy and he'll be a huge impact in that game, I'm sure. So I think all positive signs for the Eagles, whereas the Packers, we'll talk about injuries a little later, but they're definitely the more banged up team. Plus we already beat them. They do have a good running game, and they're not the same team that we beat in week 1 in Brazil because that was preseason, but neither are the Eagles. The Eagles, to be able to say that just a shout out to Vic Fangio, number 1 defense at the end of the year. Who would have predicted that? You could go on anybody's talk show at the beginning of the season. Nobody's saying that this, even the biggest fans of Fangio, which I am one of those, I'm not saying they're going to run the number 1 defense at the end of the season with all this turnaround and saying bye to Fletcher Cox and BG's final year, and they're getting old in the secondary and they got all these rookies there. And it's pretty awesome to see that. And I think those guys are waiting for that primetime game to step on the big stage to just keep proving how good they are as a defense. So that was awesome. One little note is good to see Sidney Brown on the interception. I don't know if you saw it in the replay, but I'm like, that dude can move, man. He had to cover so much ground to get over there to pick off that pass, which we all know he could do. He's just got to shore up those tackles. He missed a couple tackles.
He overshot. That's his issue. And you can tell that is probably the reason. If you had to sit down and if we had Vic on this show and we asked him about Sidney Brown, I would guarantee if he would just be honest with us, he would say he just, needs to
just overruns a play.
He goes 100 miles an hour all the time.
All the time.
At the same time, you're not doing us any good if you're overshooting a guy.
Have some throttle control on that knob, just crank it up on those running plays to 5 or 6, and then when it's going that way, crank it up to 11. But I don't know. It's great to see him play. There was a little a documentary short on him that came out on social media this week. I don't know if you caught any of that, just about his daily routine. And man, that guy he's a prime athlete. Yeah. And as soon as he gets that figured out and Vic gets to know him, I'm like, that guy's going to be an asset, like we've been saying for years. But a little shout out there before we go fully into Packers. But, they've got depth like crazy on defense and offense. Like
and they're youngest defense in the league, and we're number 1.
Yeah, I would say there's no team that has as much depth, but Detroit has proven that they can win with a lot of scrubs on the field too. So, and then there's one team, Kansas City, that proves that they can't do anything if they have their backups on the field. So I'm not too worried about the AFC this time around. If we can get there and get through Detroit, get to the Super Bowl, I think the Eagles got a really, really good chance of taking on anybody.
I think the NFC's winning the Super Bowl this year because I do think it'll probably be either Detroit or the Eagles there. Maybe the Rams could make a run. I think that team could be dangerous. I mean, we'll get into talk about the playoff picture a little bit later, but yeah, I just think the better teams are in the NFC. I think the Bills are just too top heavy. I think it's just too much Allen. If one of these good defenses like the Eagles, I don't know if Detroit probably will put up big numbers against them because their defense is not as good. But just I don't know. It's like to me, if you just shut Allen down, they don't have much else, And he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's been able to really stop him this year.
Yeah, the Bills can run though. James Cook can run the ball.
Yeah, they can run.
Stop that too.
I don't know. I don't think they have a great of a defense.
No, their defense is not there.
Kansas City has been skating by their skin of their teeth all year. I'll never discount
them out.
Mahomes in the playoffs. So they have that.
Good enough every time.
Exactly. And
that's enough. He's just put enough arch on that ball. He's just enough to win every time.
Exactly. And that's what they'll do in the playoffs. They'll probably, they're not going to probably beat up on anybody, but they'll win. They'll just figure out ways to win. That's what they do. So we'll keep it on the Eagles for now. And we'll talk a little bit more about the other playoff matchups. But I liked how you pointed out that I lost the train of thought. There was something you mentioned in your opening there that I thought was a good point that you made.
Packers or Eagles?
I forget what it was now.
Well, we beat the Packers. We beat them once already, but both those teams are different. Packers are definitely dinged up.
Both teams were not good. Were not as good beginning of the season as they are now, especially the Eagles. But, you talked about the defense. Our defense wasn't playing well until after the bye. So, that's what we were struggling at was defense. And that kind of made sense because we've talked about it, hammered it home a million times, how the first 4 games of the season, because they don't play their starters in the preseason, that's when the team is trying to figure things out, especially a team like the Eagles, who had a new offensive and defensive coordinator. So it totally made sense. And it took them 4 weeks to figure out the defense. And they had the bye week, and they really kind of corrected the issues. And Vic went to town and how to make little changes or bigger changes. We don't know exactly what he did, but certainly having Cooper join the team in week 5 has made a huge difference. So they didn't see Cooper in that game. Cooper DeJean was not in that first Packers game.
No.
So you mentioned the injuries. They're going to be without Christian Watson, who's not really like a guy that's like a game in and game out threat, but he's a guy that's can be a downfield threat on occasion. So he's not going to play. And Matt, as you could probably imagine, I hammered home the not playing the starters deal and the whole Barkley thing. That totally went off the rails. Even after our show, remember I said it was close to 50-50? I think it was more 60-40 Eagles fans wanted Barkley to play in this game. And I'm like, my God. I mean, so I kind of went on a little rant again on Monday about that because, Christian Watson, done. And probably missing most of that next year. Now, the Packers even had something to play for. So, at least they had something that they were playing for. They're trying to get maybe a potential better seed or keep their seed that they had. I forget, but they needed to have their guys in there. But he's gone. Zay Flowers of the Ravens, right? That's another guy who might not play this week.
Injured early.
Now, that was but again, the Ravens were playing for something. They were playing for the division title. So they had the plan. But this is the whole point that I was trying to drive home.
Yeah. No, everybody
to play for other than trying to push Barkley over the NFL rushing record. And by doing so, you'd have to play everyone. So it was the most – I don't understand why Eagle fans were struggling and pushing so much for Barkley to play.
They're comparing it as well to Mike Evans getting his extra series until he got over the 1,000-yard season. 11.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
That's him. But at the same time, I'm like, can you imagine if that game ended with Baker trying to force it and the Saints getting off the game? That game was not over if Baker throws a turnover there. Right. That gives the Saints one more chance to win. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, can you imagine the storyline? Yeah. If Baker Mayfield has this incredible season and because Tampa wants to get a record in the books, loses to the Saints.
Which
Like
makes you wonder if the Saints were aware of that, and maybe they would have like triple covered Evans on that play and maybe picked it off.
100%. So I guess you never know, right? Unless you're in a coach's ear. But, we grew up in a different generation of players. Like if I'm on that field or if I'm coaching my team against you, I'm not giving you a free yard ever. Like ever. Right. Like Herm Edwards style, you play to win the game, you play until the whistle blows, and you don't stop until it's over. And if we know that that's where they're going, absolutely, I'm 100% we're already losing. So I'm like, I'm not letting you get that record on my turf. Like that would be my goal. And we would go knock the shit out of Baker. And
try to get the Giants are. They were going to do everything possible. They could give a crap if they let McKee throw for 800 yards and break all those records. They weren't going to let Barkley, their former star player, run for that record. As bad as they are, they would have had 11 guys in the box to stop him. And it's just, I don't know. I don't want to spend a lot more time on it, but it's just
never be
me how Eagle fans just don't understand that what is such an obvious strategy to keep your team as healthy as possible for the games that matter, which start Sunday.
Everyone loves being right. If the Eagles lose in the first round of the playoffs, it's going to be, I told you.
Oh my God, you're going to hear them. Oh, see, they did. Yep. They prevented Barkley from getting the NFL rushing title, and they still lost.
Yeah, and if he got injured, then the other side will be saying, "I told you so." So it's that will never be resolved. But I'll just say records are made to be broken, and those records don't last forever. I still am on that. But a Super Bowl win lasts forever. You're not guaranteed to get it, but it lasts forever. You can't ever. Nobody's ever going to take that trophy away. It's just guaranteed.
I mean, there were Eagle fans the morning of the Giants game that thought because Barkley practiced one day last week that the Eagles were just gonna, surprise the Giants and start Barkley that for that game. I'm like, at that point, I'm like, my God, you guys are just so damn lost. But again,
I would rather see a Super Bowl. I would rather see a Super Bowl. It's Knicks.
Well, I'd rather just see our team completely healthy going into the playoffs. Unlike last year where we lost A.J. Brown, Sidney Brown, and a guy I forgot to mention is Reed Blankenship was also lost that game.
Yeah.
In a meaningless game at the end of the season.
Yeah. And then look what the Bucks did to us in the first round. And I'm like, nobody, I would guarantee you, nobody wants a first round failure due to injuries on the field. Like we would burn the city down. So does Barkley need to have that number one stat to be known as right up there with Barry Sanders, Bo Jackson, and Eric Dickerson? Anyways, he's already there. So it doesn't matter. And those debates never stop anyways. Eric Dickerson right now has that title, and nobody I've talked to in the last 20 years says Eric Dickerson first over Barry Sanders, Bo Jackson, Emmitt Smith, and then probably even Walter Payton. And then you get, wait, who owns the record? Oh, it's Eric Dickerson. Yeah, nobody cares because they all know that the greatness is in these other running backs anyways. So Barkley is great. Everyone knows that he's great. If he's healthy, he's going to have great seasons like this. Whether it comes again, it doesn't matter. If the Eagles were not in playoff contention, 100% they would go for that.
They would play him. Absolutely, they would have played him.
Yeah, but if Mike Evans got hurt on that last catch, what are the Bucks going to do? It's so – I get it. There's 6 in one hand and a half dozen in the other, and nobody's an idiot for thinking one way or the other, but it's just like everybody can be right on this one. Great, you can have that. But it's so tied to what's going to happen next that it doesn't matter. It's just
and it's not just the one player, unlike Mike Evans. If he got hurt, it was just him. The entire team would have to be on the field, all the offensive starters for Barkley to chase that record. So you're putting and we know what the Eagles' record is without Lane Johnson in the lineup. You want Lane Johnson to go and mess his knee up on playing last weekend? Yeah. Try to get
what would have happened if the Saints took a shot at Baker Mayfield, and concussed him?
Yeah, hit him late.
Questions are easy to get these days. It's like, what the hell? Like, why would you take that risk? It's just not. We'll agree to disagree with any of the fans or on the other side of that. But listen,
I said, put your comments down. Last episode, I didn't get any, but let us know your feedback. If you're very strong in that opinion about Barkley starting, let us know why. I'm not going to beat you up on here. We're not going to beat you up on here. Want to know? Give us your
Maybe we'll
reason.
get Saquon's dad. I heard his dad was all for him playing, so we'll see. Maybe we'll get Mr. Barkley on here.
What's good about Saquon is he's now got his eyes set on the overall rushing record.
100% more motivated to get him
Right.
all the way there now.
Regular season plus playoffs, which is held by Terrell Davis.
Yeah. Yep. So I think there's just, the Detroit Lions ultimately in our way at the end of the day, but we got to take care of business first every week, keep playing. I think Nick will keep this team focused. I think Nick deserves a lot of credit for being a great coach this year. A lot of things he had to manage. Plus, nobody has to deal with the Philly media and the Philly fan base as a coach who's coaching anywhere else. So it seems to me like Philly, because of our passion, and we're going to make you own your mistakes, you'll hear from us every freaking hour of the day. And I don't think the other coaches across the league ever really have to ever deal with that. They don't. There's usually just everyone's like, nope, he's our coach. We're backing him up. We're like, bullshit. We thought this was wrong. We need to put his feet in the fire. And I'm like, it's a magical thing to have that in Philly, but Nick deserves some credit. When you run that stat of having 3 seasons of the most wins, 11 plus wins every one of his first 3 seasons as a head coach of the Eagles, I'm like, and he's had a different staff every year.
Yeah, with all the staff changes too.
It's crazy. And the roster has turned over. I'm like, he's a good coach, people. He is a good motivator of men and coaching staff, not just the team. So he's got things right where they need to be. So,
by the way, you remind me of something. So congratulations to Jeffrey Lurie, where this all starts from the top. Great owners, great management, GM, on down to the coaching staff. Ultimately, you get your fruits of the labor out of your team. And it all starts with Jeffrey Lurie, who saved this team. I always talk about it. Maybe it's been a while on this show.
Could be the Phoenix Eagles.
Arizona back in 95.
Yeah, early 90s, right? 90.
Maybe, or maybe it was earlier than that. Early 90s, yeah.
It was 94, 95, I think.
It was around there, yeah. There was rumors that they were going to go and be sold to some entrepreneur or something in Arizona. They were going to move the team. And those were some serious rumors going on with some substance. And Jeffrey Lurie came in and bought the team. And he's not from Philly. He was a Boston guy. And obviously in California, he's a movie producer, I believe. So, and he's great as an owner. So 300 wins he got this past Sunday. So I wanted to give Jeffrey Lurie a shout out.
No, not only is he a good owner for the team, but for the city, he does a lot of great things. I was just watching a documentary about work he does with autism in the city of Philadelphia and how much money they've raised since he's run the organization. But also
money into this organization, like all those big contracts, the Wentz one that he had to eat. Not many owners are willing to do stuff like that. So
he's a good communicator. He's a good communicator, and you see that missing in other places that haven't won in 30-something years. The Eagles minus a couple periods where they'll go 2 or 3 years before they get resettled as eras come in and out and go by. Mm-hmm. We've been competitive almost his entire ownership of the Eagles. Like it's the downturns are slim, and the ability to compete on the weekends is the maximum
basis. Yeah, and he's made great coaching decisions. Every coach he's hired, from Andy Reid, who was unknown. The only coach that was really known was Chip Kelly. He was the only one that was known in his college ranks as being like the next big thing. Yeah. And, that was kind of more of an experiment that he did. But Chip Kelly was even successful here as a coach until he worn his way out here pretty quick after that. But, I mean, so you had Andy Reid, who's now one of the all-time greatest coaches ever in NFL history.
Well, you have Ray Rhodes before Andy Reid.
Okay, this is Ray Rhodes. But he was still pretty good, made the playoffs with Ray Rhodes. But yeah, thanks. I might have skipped over Rhodes. And then Doug Peterson, who they won a Super Bowl with. And now, of course, Sirianni. And none of them were like well-known guys. Nope. So, in fact, Sirianni, I don't think, interviewed with anyone else. So nobody was interested in Sirianni. So anyway, I just wanted to give major
good point to Chase. Yeah. Big time kudos to Jeff Lurie. The Eagles have all arrows pointing up into this game. Let's talk offense, right? So offense.
Yeah, we'll get into the keys of the game.
definitely stronger on offense, right? So if you're looking at like, okay, what is the Packers better than us at? I don't think we're going to find one, but let's say offense first. Who's got the better quarterback? I think that goes to the Eagles. Jordan Love can play a great game, but he's got such a dinged up staff. I'm not sure what he's going to be capable of. And again, those matchups always come down to the line. And I definitely trust our D-line to put more pressure on that offensive line of the Packers than I worry about our offense.
They have a good line in there. And
yeah.
Not a great line, but it's pretty good.
I think across the board, we're better on offense almost at every position. Every single position is better, and that doesn't mean that they don't have all pros. Josh Jacobs is tough, but we have Barkley. So
right.
You're going to see why Barkley is mentioned as the greatest of all time with those great backs, and why Jacobs is a really, really good back, but not quite in that tier yet.
Right. Just getting back real quick, Matt, to the whole Barkley thing, not to bring it up again, just want to make one last comment about it. You don't think his body, as much as he wanted to go for that record, is welcoming having a week off with all the beating and carries he's taken this year?
Yeah.
So you're going to get a replenished,
coming in fresh
to a degree, Barkley heading into the playoffs.
Yeah. And Jacobs been taking a pounding. Like he's been there, just like Barkley, he's been their consistent driver of that offense.
He's really good.
But he doesn't have as much open space to run through as Barkley has had to the line of the Eagles. He's been getting popped a lot more than Barkley has. Still dangerous, but he's really the only concern I have.
He's my number one key to the game is I have it written down here, stopping Josh Jacobs.
Yep. Stop that running game. Keep him contained. If he's got 50 to 60 yards, we're going to win. If he's got 80 plus and a touchdown or two, well, it's going to be close. Maybe we still win, but now that's a game I don't want to be in. So that'll be the number.
And you got to wonder, I don't know if we just lost you, Matt. You just are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You got to wonder about Jordan Love. He did get dinged on his funny bone in that game, and apparently he's going to play. I'm not going to, he's questionable, but there's no doubt he's going to play. Yeah. But, anything with a throwing arm, which it's on, that it's not, is not 100% going into the game, that's always got to be concerning if you're a Packers fan. So,
yeah. They'll shoot him up with the painkillers and stuff, but anything in that throwing motion, like you said, just makes you feel a little off, and all of a sudden
he can't hold on to the ball as hard as he, as strong as he can because his grip is not as good. Maybe more prone to fumbling, stuff like that. Things you don't really think about. May not necessarily affect his throw, but something like strength of holding onto the ball, things like that. Which hopefully, speaking of fumbling the ball, Hurts, Hurts has not forgotten how to do that in the last month.
I would rather see Hurts just play the mistake-free game and leave some guys open that he could have hit, but we win. I'd rather see that. We won so many games that way. Put the ball in the hands of Barkley and that offensive line.
Yep.
Play the hero Hurts.
He threw 2 picks in that first Green Bay game too. So
just throw that ball away. Do all those things that you consistently did week after week, even though we were bitching about you and other people were saying you missed the guys. I'm like, I get that. Lock us all out and just don't turn the ball over, and we should win this game. Save those plays for the Lions because we'll probably need them then.
Yeah, and slide a little sooner than he did against Washington.
Little sooner, yeah, a little sooner. You don't need to take all those hits, which is probably the
see that play, by the way. And we didn't really talk about it much. The actual hit itself. When you see the actual hit, and I'm not going to sit there and play Monday morning quarterback now and say, "Oh, that was a vicious hit." When you see it in slow motion, it does look like the guy drove his head in the ground and it was kind of late. But when I first saw the play, which I'm going to always go on, I didn't have any issue with it. So I'm not going to sit there and say now that was a late hit or illegal, whatever. But it definitely was on the fringe of being, kind of a dirty play. But again, I'm not going to say it was because I didn't. When I first saw it in real action, I had nothing. I didn't have any problem with it. So
at the same time, before Hurts got injured in that game, didn't he look a little bit more quick twitch than prior games? He looked fired up for that game.
Yeah, he was playing really well in that game.
He was making quick decisions and throwing the ball well, and was the ball out on time, and then choosing to run. If that Hurts shows up again, this game's not going to be close. I think the Eagles would get away from the Packers here if Hurts plays that style of game. And I think he is, because Hurts is a gamer, man. We've never seen him not show up. You know, he had trouble versus Tampa last year in that first round.
It's
but
really just Tampa. It just
Anybody
always just been Buccaneers.
Yeah. So I don't know. The biggest key is Jacobs. The second key would be the turnover game for me. I would say you gotta make sure that we don't turn the ball over and that we're getting the turnovers from them. And then that's pretty much it. After that, I think all of our guys line up better than their guys.
Yeah, the Eagles defense has been creating turnovers the last month of the year, especially.
Yeah, consistently, which is so fun to see because it's been, I mean, we had a very big drought on that over the last, the John Gannon defense.
Last year, I think they only had
terrible.
I don't even think they had 10 for the whole season last year.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. But it's nice to see that. If the Eagles get a turnover or two, we'll be all right. We're still waiting to see Kenyon Mitchell get his first interception. And if CJ, if he said he's got it, just maybe back out of this one. Let him catch one, right?
I know.
Let him have his time to shine in the play.
Yeah,
in the playoffs.
Maybe he can learn from how CJ attacks the ball. You know, don't wait for it to come down to you.
Yeah,
go after it. You know.
Yep. So we'll see. Normally, if this wasn't the Packers, we would be talking about the weather. It's going to be cold. It's 4:30, and the East Coast is freezing right now. So it's going to be a chilly.
But if there's one team that's used to cold ass weather, it's the Packers. So they're not going to be impacted.
When you're a little dinged up, I think those injuries just hurt a little bit more in the cold.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sure,
that's going to be healthy for it. And that's it. That's all I got for keys to the game. I think all over. I expect the Eagles to show up, and I wasn't even thinking about this, but we praised Nolan Smith within the last couple of weeks. But it's funny how we're so concerned that BG is going to be out, right? And because of Nolan Smith stepping up, we haven't really missed BG. His presence on the field is, I'm sure, missed every day by the players. But production-wise, Nolan Smith has cranked it up. Yeah, and I'm we're not sitting here wishing we had BG for this game, other than the sentimental value that goes with it. Because I'm we're okay with that. No one's playing fine.
I'd love to have BG in these games, though. But yes, I get what you mean.
True. It's just, but it doesn't feel like that big gaping hole. We're oh boy, now what? When he got it,
because he has stepped up, like you said. Nolan Smith stepped up.
So I feel really good about that. I feel really good about the game. And we just got to play our style of football, and I think this game will handle itself nicely.
Yeah, I like the fact that the Packers have not played the Eagles this year with Cooper. I mentioned it earlier, with Cooper Deshaun. They played him without.
Yeah,
he has made such a difference in his defense, and so that might be. I mean, he's been basically the key all year. It's amazing that a rookie could have that much impact. Or we've had obviously Quinyon's been great too, but really the defense turned around once Cooper was able to be inserted into the third slot. And he's such a, we were talking about how Sidney Brown's not a secure tackler right now, but Cooper is. He rarely misses tackles. And he covers great. So he's he does both. He supports the run and can cover. So that might be the key to slowing down that Green Bay, who moved the ball against the Eagles in that first game. But again, to your point, I think the Eagles are better. I think obviously Green Bay is better too. They're going to be a little better than what we saw in week 1 too. I think the fact that Love, we don't know if he is 100%. Of course, our quarterback, we don't know necessarily if he's 100% recovered. Apparently, he's still in concussion protocol. We all expect him to be cleared and everything, but
I thought you had to be cleared to practice, though. He practiced today.
Yeah, but they're still saying he is in the protocol. Well, there's different stages of it. I think the next stage after he practices to get to the 5th stage is they see how he's reacting afterwards and all the tests that he's got to do after he practices. So he's got to before he can get on the practice field, he needs to get to stage 4, from what I understand.
Gotcha.
And so that we know that he's at least in stage 4. And if that's, I mean, who knows? To me, there could be a lot of coach speak going on too. I think he's fine. And I think he was just playing the game where, well, it's just not totally, disclosed that he's 100% ready to go, just because you want the Packers preparing for McKee and Pickett and everybody.
One of our favorite local news guys, Ruben Frank, was like, guys, this is not an issue.
Right, it's not.
Hurts is going to play. It's not. Yeah. It's not even worth writing or thinking about.
Exactly. But that's why I don't know why the Eagles play that game. It's like, dude, it's obvious Hurts is going to play. Just say it. But whatever. So, all right. So we got my other key to the game is, obviously you want to get pressure on Love, and I know you were kind of mentioning it too. So without Brandon Graham, we need Nolan Smith to keep up, keep his game up. I would still. Bond, by the way, had 2 sacks in that first game. So, they found something there. I'm sure that Green Bay is going to obviously be aware of that and try to figure out what he did on his blitzes. But they were successful, is my point, in getting Bond to the quarterback in that game. So we'll see if the Eagles are going to, send him or N'Kobe maybe on some linebacker blitzes because they had success with that in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think stopping Jacobs, like you said, if they contain him, he's going to get his runs. He's a good back. And the Eagles, if there is one weakness on his team, they have had some running backs run on them this year. So if they can shut that down, then I think, like you said, this will be I won't say game over, but that'll be a huge sign that the Eagles are in good shape for this game. But if Jacobs is getting 5-6 yards a pop, and moving the chains, then that's going to be a problem. So hopefully they can solidify it. Suddenly, as I've got a show going on, my phone's going off like crazy. So any other keys that you can think of? I mean, I think that Zaire Alexander, apparently their number 1 cornerback, is very questionable for the game. In fact, I think he's expected to miss the game. So that'll be a huge loss for the Packers if he's not able to go, because obviously the Eagles have serious weapons at wide receiver where you need all your guys there, especially your best one. So if he misses the game, the Eagles got to attack, whoever their backup is. I'm not sure what it is top of my head, but we'll see if he's able to go. But apparently I'm hearing that, it's very likely that he may not be able to play.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft, so Tucker Kraft's a good tight end for the Packers.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm sure they got him covered. Don't let him blow up on, he's not really like a game breaker type, but there have been games where he catches 1 or 2 touchdowns. And he's a guy that can definitely keep the Packers in it if they give him too much space there. So
Packers have weapons. I mean, they have that Jalen Reed, even though they're out without Watson. Jalen Reed is a dangerous weapon. I think it was the first game, wasn't it, when they gave him like an end around handoff and he scored on it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So he's good out of the backfield like that. It's kind of like a jack of all trades type of guy. And he's a good receiver. They got that Wilkins? Wicks. I think this is their other guy. And Dobbs, pretty good wide receiver.
Wicks, Reed. But guys are as good as Smith, Brown, and Han Dotson, who had a great game last week too. So Jalen, if Hurts understands that he can trust Dotson when he's on the field, because the other 2 guys did, dude's going to catch the ball. Just keep putting it right to him. I'm like,
use him more. Yeah. I mean, like we mentioned when we had Johnny on, and Johnny was trying to, kind of almost like, thanks for the 3rd round pick. I'm like, well, dude, he catches everything we throw to him. We just don't use him. It's not like he's been terrible. We just don't use the guy.
Don't get him.
So hopefully they'll use him more. He certainly showed that he caught everything in that game.
I think if the Eagles can get up early, the defense can take care of the rest in this one. That's what I'm hoping for. Just like for every game this season. But I think if we get up by 12, 14 points,
Green Bay is a tough test, though, for a 2-7 game to have a team like Green Bay as the seed coming in as a 7th seed. The Eagles don't get a break, that's for sure, because the Packers, they only have 5 losses this whole season, 2 to Detroit, 2 to Minnesota. Both those teams have over 14 wins. And the Eagles were the other team before this Bears loss. So, so that's 6 losses, rather. So that's 6 total. But yeah, so this is a good team. They've beaten everyone else. Other than the very top teams, with the exception of Chicago and the NFL. So they're good.
They got a good coach too. Matt LaFleur is a good coach.
Yeah, he's a good coach. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's a good coach there too. All right, so let's move on to predictions. All right.
Well, I think if the Eagles, again, stick to my recipe for winning, which is commit to the run game and don't turn the ball over, then we're talking Eagles will be northwards of 26 points or so. So I'll go 28 points Eagles.
Okay.
And so I actually feel like we're going to kill them. I just have a feeling we're going to kill them. So I'll go 28-17.
28-17. Okay.
And that's given the Packers probably a bonus score in there somewhere, right? It may be lower than that. I think the Eagles are going to be so fired up for this game that they'll have to just kind of manage the excitement when they kick off this first drive of the first series on defense. So, but once that ball's tipped off, I think the Eagles are just going to unload.
Yep. All right. So my prediction is this, and I'm trying to think, I'm going to factor in they're getting off to a slow start again, just because 90% of the time this year they have. So I got to put this game into 30s for the Eagles if I thought that they would come out strong and raring to go right in the first quarter. I'm just going to go with the default this season, where especially with Hurts that hasn't played in a month, that they're going to be a slow starting first quarter again. So that's going to keep the score in the upper 20s for me too, rather than going into the 30s, because I do think the Eagles are going to do pretty well offensively in this game. So, but I'm going to keep the score a little bit down, noting that they're probably going to get us, basically have a scoreless or maybe 3 points in the first quarter. So with that being said, I'm going to go 27. We're going to be close again on the score. You got 17 for the Packers. $13. I think the Eagles going to clamp down. I don't know what was the final score? Do you remember the first game? I don't remember what it was. Wasn't it like 20-something, 20-something?
Yeah, I thought both in the mid-20s, mid to upper 20s.
Yeah, so I think the defense being much better and some of the injuries that the Packers have, I'm going to keep their score down. I'm thinking between 13 and 16, but I'll go with the low 13. I think Eagles win 27-13. So that's we both basically have them winning between 10 and 14 points. So we both see the Eagles getting the job done with relative ease. Not to say that this is going to be an easy game. I don't think either one of us is surprised if this is like a field goal game that going down to the wire either.
No, the bet line is 4.5 points, right? Eagles are favored by half.
Yep, 4.5. Yep.
Yeah, I see the Eagles just establishing themselves. Like, we get it. There's some other good teams out here, but
I do too. I just think the Packers, plus they're not playing that great right now. It's not like the Packers are coming in this game with a lot of momentum. They just lost to the Bears.
Yep.
And the Bears are not terrible, but they're not that good either. So, I just think they're struggling a little bit, coming into this game, and they're banged up. Like I said, the Eagles are pretty much, other than Brandon Graham, who is, he's obviously pretty much out for the year. The Eagles are healthy, so that's obviously good too. All right, now let's just quickly bounce around the league. What are your thoughts, real quick, on? We're going to touch just on each game. Just give me your general thoughts. We're just going to bounce around. Chargers versus the Texans, a 5-4 game in Texas, or
Texans
in Houston.
Texans have looked so shaky the last few weeks, but they're a team that's also getting healthy late at the end of the season with Mixon coming back strong. And the Chargers are kind of hit or miss too. Like, it's like you would think that the Chargers should be able to score more points, yet they don't. But they got J.K. Dobbins back healthy too, which is a huge game.
And what's his name? Went off big time last week.
Yeah, Quentin Johnson, a week after fantasy. So I don't know. That one's going to be close. I think the Chargers maybe edge out the Texans. I'm not feeling the Texans this year. So I'm going to go with Harbaugh and the Chargers, squeak one out in a close one and pull off the upset in Houston maybe. Yeah,
I see this as a very tight game. I think it can go either way. I think both teams are very close. I do think that losing Dell is going to hurt, because there's really only Nico Collins now as far as the weapon, to throw to. Their Titans not too bad, but Nico's a great player too. I mean, he could take over a game, but not having Dell there, I think, is going to impact a game like this where you're playing a really good defense. The Chargers have one of the better defenses in the league. Dobbins being back, you mentioned. Johnson having a huge breakout game last week. We know that guy's talented. He just hasn't shown it much this year. And they have the other guy too, the guy that's been McConkey, who's
McConkey. Yep.
had a great rookie season. Herbert back there, the better quarterback of the two. I'm going to go with the Chargers too. winning by field goal or a point, something like that. It'd be a very close game. How about the Steelers, the 6 going against the Ravens in Baltimore, the 3 seed?
I think the Ravens are going to kill them.
This is the one game. I was even telling some Steeler friends of mine. I think if there's a blowout game this weekend, it's this.
I think the Steelers are going to be embarrassed. Actually,
Yeah.
I think they're going to be embarrassed, and
I have the exact same feeling in this game. And we didn't talk, by the way. Matt and I haven't talked about any of this before, and I see this exactly the same way. I think the Steelers are going to get steamrolled in this game.
Yeah, there's not much hope, I don't think, for the Steelers. I don't know. If Tomlin does get fired, it might be because of the outcome of this game. That's how bad I think it's going to be. Baltimore's going to win.
You think Tomlin's on the hot seat?
Huh?
I think he's on the hot seat?
I don't know how he is with the ownership, but the fan base is so tired of Tomlin. They've wanted him out for the last 4.
Right. I don't understand why. But
we're at with Andy Reid the last 5 years. That's where most of the Steelers are with Tomlin.
Okay. Well, I can relate to that because I wanted Andy Reid fired too.
Yep.
So I guess I can relate to that. All right. So we'll move on from that one. We don't see that one being close. How about Denver? This is an interesting game to me. This is another tougher 7-2 game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Denver going on the road against Buffalo. In Buffalo.
I think
go ahead. I'll let you comment first.
I think the best chance for an upset and the biggest downfall could be the Buffalo Bills this weekend, because that Denver team is tough and they play smart football. And Bo Nix, again, if he plays turnover-free football, that dude's a player. So I would say if there is an upset, it will be this game, because Denver is on. I know they played a bunch of scrubs, but they beat the scrubs like they should have beaten the scrubs. And man,
this year,
that team is cranking, and they're not. I don't know. Like we were talking earlier, Buffalo's defense doesn't really scare us like they used to when they've had really good seasons. So I think Buffalo better be ready for a game. Like this one's going to be a game. Maybe I don't know if it's snowing in Buffalo or what. They might maybe that'll help them. But Denver's used to playing snow games too. So I think this one is going to be closer than you think, Buffalo. And I think if you let Denver get on you quick and early and fast, it might be over. Like they're not going to let up the pedal with Sean Payton and that offense. So well-coached team, getting good quarterback play out of the rookie. They don't know that they're not supposed to be this good yet, so they have nothing to lose. So there's no pressure, right? So I'm always looking at those teams that have zero pressure on them to go win in the opponent's stadium, and all the pressure is going to be sitting on the Bills. Big time.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm kind of surprised that we have the exact same sentiment in this game. I think that this could be an upset, and I'm not. The Bills will probably win somehow. I think I could just see Allen doing something and pull out a win.
Superman.
But yeah, which he is. So I got to give him credit. But this game is not going to be easy for the Bills. I'd be shocked if the Bills blow them out or this is not a competitive game. I think Denver. First of all, the elements are not going to bother Denver. Again, they're an outside cold weather team, so that's not going to factor in that game. I think again, they have a good coach. Quarterback's playing pretty well. They don't have any pressure on them. It's all on Buffalo, which is always key in these games. They get a turnover, and we know Allen can be prone to turnovers. That's one thing about Allen. There's always been a knock about him. He could be reckless. He could be Brett Favre-ish. And if he turns the ball over a couple times in this one and gives Denver the ball a couple extra times in this game, it could be dangerous. It could be. I would not be. If I was a Bills fan, I'd be. I don't know how they're feeling, what the sentiment is, how they're feeling about this game. If they just think they're going to roll over Denver, I would be a little uneasy if I was a Bills fan about this one. Much like the Eagles are with the Green Bay. I mean, the Green Bay that's a tough team for a 7 seed coming in, and I think Denver is kind of the same way. They've been tested. Now, I just said when you were talking, I'm like, they beat Kansas City. I'm like, I forgot they beat Kansas City, but Kansas City had nobody in that game. What was the other team that beat Kansas City? I'm trying to think who it was. Who was the other team that beat Kansas City this year?
It was early. The Raiders snuck one out on them.
Raiders beat Kansas City?
Yeah, early in the season, preseason. Our preseason, the Raiders snuck a win out.
Okay. I thought the Kansas City was undefeated to 6 or 7 games in the season before they lost.
I'm pretty sure it was early.
Okay. Anyway, Denver, I see this being. I think Buffalo will still win. I'm not going to predict that Denver will win this game, but I do think this is going to be a very close game, and closer than many people think. All right, next we'll get over to the NFC. This is a very intriguing matchup. The Vikings, the 5 seed, which it's amazing, 14 wins being a 5 seed, and the Rams at home, which home might be Arizona with the fires that they're dealing with out there. What are your thoughts on that one?
So tough draw for the Vikings, I think. Like they're Vikings, you just don't know. Like Darnold was off in that Lions game. You know, he had receivers that were open, but he just couldn't throw with enough precision to get the touchdown to Jefferson or the big play. So, you know, he's going to need to be good Sam Darnold to win this game for sure. And if he's bad Sam Darnold, then the Rams could bury them. Like I don't see, you know, Detroit had their way on offense against that Vikings defense and exposed them with the run game big time.
Once Gibbs got going, they had no answer for him.
They had no answer for him. And, you know, the Rams got Kieran Williams over there, who's a good running back as well, similar to Gibbs. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Can
Not
make all
fast, but good feedback for sure. Yep.
Yep. So I think this is a good matchup for the Rams. And I think since the Rams are at home, I think the Vikings might be in a little bit of trouble. So I would say the Rams will win in a close one, probably somewhere towards 30 points, you know, mid-20s to 30 points, and probably maybe it's by a field goal. But I don't see the Vikings defense keeping up with the Rams offense like I see the Rams defense keeping up with the Vikings offense.
Yeah, so this is why that game last weekend was so huge, because not only do you lose the number 1 seed, home field advantage and all that, you end up being a 5 seed going on a road and playing a team like the Rams. Like even if Detroit had lost that game, Detroit, I think, would struggle potentially against the Rams. The Rams are a well-coached team, talked about it. They've been playing way better the second half of the season.
Yep.
The reason for that is they got their guys back. They played the first half of the season without Kupp, he was in and out, and without Puka, he was out for quite a few weeks. That team is now fully loaded. Matt Stafford's already won a Super Bowl. Good coach, won a Super Bowl. And I am going to predict. And I have 2 reasons. One, I just talked about the Rams. The other thing is Minnesota's never a good playoff team. They're the team that lost to the Giants in the first round a couple of years ago.
Even
Eagles have stomped them many times in big game in the NFC Championships.
Even way back with the Purple People Eaters and Fran Tarkin been
Right.
big Super Bowl. So they're not a good playoff team for whatever reason. So
yeah, I think it'll be a close game. I think Darnold will play better, but I think the Rams are going to win this game. I won't give a score or anything, but I'm going to say that the Rams are going to pull this one out and upset send the Vikings home. All right, next and final and last and least is the Commanders at our nemesis, the Buccaneers, the number 6 seed versus the 2 in Tampa.
I think the Bucs will hang on to this one and win, but I want the Commanders to win so bad.
Yeah.
I want the Bucs out. Get the Bucs out.
Although I think the Bucs will, if they win, well, they would be the 2 seed, right? Or no, what are they? What the heck are the Bucs? I just said what they were. The Bucs are the 3 seed. So would that mean the Eagles would face them in this next round? They would face the second lowest seed because the Lions would get the lowest seed, which would be the Rams, I guess, because the Rams will be a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the Eagles would play the Bucs then if that's
came at home. So I don't know what would happen. Maybe we get a revenge game against the Bucs for last year, or maybe we get the revenge game against the Commanders for 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I still would rather not see Todd Bowles against us on the opposing sideline for any.
Baker chews our defense apart.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Baker turns into Patrick Mahomes, and Bowles turns into friggin' Bill Parcells. What the hell? Like, we cannot get any offense going against Bowles. So let's go Commanders. I'm rooting for them, but I think that game could be close, but the Bucs could also bury them. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there.
I'm rooting for the Commanders for the same reasons, because I just want the Bucs out. But I think the Bucks going to win. I think the Bucks going to win that game. I don't know. I having a rookie, we'll see. Daniels is great and everything, but now it's the playoffs. Now it's different. It's they call it the second season for a reason. Yep. And he's going to have the same magic, that he had this, he could. I mean, you guys really good. I'm not trying to knock him at all, but still a rookie going into playoffs.
And they had a trouble with the Saints last week.
They did.
So, they had a lot of trouble and they had all their starters going and they couldn't beat Spencer Rattler. Rattler took them down to the wire. That's.
Yep. And again, their record, win's a win. So, they pulled these games out, but they also had 2 or 3 wins this year where they had to pull out a serious miracle to win. So, they're a much better team, but man, it's still a rookie quarterback going into the playoffs on the road. That's asking a lot. Yep. Wouldn't surprise me if the Commanders won. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to, lose by a lot. I think it'll be a close game. And, but I do think the Bucs going to win.
I agree. That game's going to be chillier than normal as well, by the way.
In Tampa? Yeah, it's cold down.
South to not be in the 30s, but North Florida is going to have some 30-degree weather this week. So,
wow. So that's it. I mean, that's our just quick little jump around the league. And we'll see. I mean, a lot of really good matchups for these. Usually the really good matchups are in the second round, and the next round. Yeah. But there's some great matchups for a first round of playoffs. I mean, every one of these games, except for, who we both think the Ravens and Steelers game might be completely out of hand by the third quarter.
I think that's the only one that's got a chance of getting real.
So the game should be pretty tight.
I can't watch the Broncos-Bills. Other than Packers, I'm like, the Broncos-Bills game is the most intriguing to me.
There's going to be a lot of eyes on our game because I think a lot of people, and there's good reason for it because the Packers are a freaking good team, probably seeing both, our 7-2 game matchup as being a very interesting game too, where an upset could happen.
Yep.
Both these 7-2s are not normal 7-seed teams, especially the Packers, 11 wins as a 7 seed.
Yeah. Which is good for the NFL, right? I mean, you're going to, with a 17-game season, these 11 wins is not quite as valuable as they used to be in a 16-game season, but they're like you said, the NFC is kind of stacked.
It is.
Any one of
the fifth seed is 14 wins.
Yeah, all of these teams have a really good chance of winning this Sunday. Or Saturday. So good luck to everybody out there, but let's go Birds. The Birds should put the Pack away. I think the second closest game to a blowout this week could be this Eagles-Pack game behind the Ravens destroying the Steelers game.
Yeah, I mean, if the Eagles come out, and especially Hurts, if he's firing all cylinders, like you mentioned, like he was looking before he got hurt in that Commanders game, if he comes out, we get that Jalen Hurts, this game will be what we're predicting, 2-touchdown win for the Eagles. But we don't know. It's an unknown because especially since he hasn't played in a while. So we'll see. We'll see what's upon us. So we'll be back on Monday, more than likely, to recap the Eagles game. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and come back and join us for that episode. And hopefully we're talking about an Eagles victory and round 2 showdown with looks like probably the Buccaneers. We'll see.
Bring them on. You know what? Bring them on. We owe them.
We do owe that freaking team. Put it this way. They're not going to sneak up and surprise us anymore. That's for sure.
No. They should be already working. They should have somebody in the back room somewhere thinking about Todd Bowles right now.
Yeah.
And then maybe we just bench Hurts for that game and let Tanner McKee play it. And just
we'll throw them that curveball.
Yeah.
Because you guys own Hurts so much. He's not even going to play. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. Another an episode of Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt. Matt, hope you feel better. And let's talk about a win on Monday. And for all of you, fly Eagles fly and go Birds. And
we'll Birds.
Catch you next time. Until then, take care, everyone. See you soon.